In this episode, we take out the tuning condenser and work on the Planetary drive. Ouch! Right, I desoldered the grounding straps that goes on this tuning condenser, and I just clipped the other two wires on the other side here. I just clipped those. We may end up replacing those anyway, but clipping those will be quicker. I glued this, sanded it up a little bit, so now we're going to try to get this thing out. I think I've already told you I've ordered this these grommets, and these are just, I mean, these are like concrete, and they just keep this capacitor floating, and then the grounding strap is what kept it. But that's all about vibration and good vibrations. Does that sound right? And so we got to figure out how to get these things out. And this thing is just crumbly. So let me go away a little bit. I'm going to have to end up cutting these because this is just brittle. Okay, I've cut most of the rubber off, and there is a 1/4 inch bolt that holds this back bracket on. Got a star washer, and we'll save that. Of course, I know I'm in my way. I know I'm in my way. But as you can see, the way this works is this rubber piece goes on there, and it'll fit in there, and then we can bolt it back up on there. And in theory, this should just come out. Having to break the rubber. There we go. We got that out, so we can do a little cleaning up on it, maybe. I went ahead and installed it back on there. We can clean this mess up with it on there. But remember the witness marks, because this has got some height adjustment on it. You can see where, well, I can see where there was where it was actually fitted, so that's, we want to get that back in the same spot perhaps. So we'll set this aside, get this cleaned up after a while. I took and put this in the sink with some Dawn dishwashing liquid and scrubbed it with a toothbrush and hot water. And I'm going to spray down here with some deoxit. Also, I'm going to put a meter on it and check it for continuity, make sure there's no shorts. Let's take a look at this vernier dial or Planetary drive. I like the way Philco, this drive works. The larger knob, or the larger shaft, is more of a coarse, and it turns it a lot quicker. And then of course the center is more of a fine tune. Now what happens in these is the grease in this mechanism hardens up, as does the grease in the down in the bearings. Now you can just barely see the bearings right here, this plate which has the gear that this drives. And if you look in there, let's see if I can get you a better view. This gear has some wear on it. I don't think it's going to affect it that much. We'll feel it and may take a little file and clean it up a little bit. But the big thing right now is we're going to pull this Planetary drive out. You take it out by taking those two screws out, and inside, well, I'll show you what's inside. A subscriber of mine, Zorka4098, asked me if I had ever read the Philco repair bench for repair of the models 30, 8, 8, 9, and 10. And I had not read this, but I had told him that I had done these before. But I went online at his suggestion, and it's got a lot of good documentation. It explains how the drive works and how to clean it and how to take it apart and how to put it back together. And that's important. Now what I'll do is I'll take this apart, and then you got to be really careful because there's 4 little ball bearings and a spring inside here, and you don't want to lose those. But so it's best to kind of disassemble it in a tub so that if anything falls, it's in that tub. Then what I'll do is, and I'm going to describe it because I'm going to have to go to the shop. I like to use lacquer thinner and force lacquer thinner through these bearings and get all the dried grease, also all the dried grease in the dial or the dial itself or the drive itself. Then we repack it with sewing machine grease, and while I'm there, I'll also spray these connections here that connects these center ones to ground, and we'll spray that with some deoxit while we're outside and not causing any problems in the house. And let's take this apart and I'll show you what's going on. As I was working on this tuning condenser, I noted that it says that it's Philco part 3120072, used on models 38.8, 38.9, and 38.10. However, when I took it apart, and you'll see in the following videos that it was not the same as the documentation. This is a Philco 312025 ARA. So it's a different Planetary drive than the one that's mentioned on the Philco repair bench. They're similar, but in the theory of operation are very close, but they're built totally different, and you'll see in the coming video. I know for a fact that this particular radio is run number 2 based upon the documentation, because you can see the 20 ohm resistor on the pin or the cathode of the 6A8 tube, and that is specified in run number 2. So this particular radio was run number 2. So apparently they use different parts, and Philco, in my experience, you'll find things different on the schematic that's actually in the radio. And in this case, the tuning condenser is a totally different part than what is listed. Maybe you can see this on the parts list on number 4. It says tuning condenser model 8 and 9, 31-2025, and then tuning condenser on model 7 is 2040. So there's actually 2 different models listed than's actually on the Philco repair bench article. So like I said, they're similar and they work in a similar manner, but they're constructed differently. We've taken those two screws out there, and we have two little plates that goes on here, little spacers, and you can see these are kind of offset, so the offset goes with that. And so let's and there, that just fell off. Of course, all that done was sit like that. Okay, so let me get ready to take this apart in this bowl, so I got to remove some of these materials. On the end of this is a C-clip. You can take a screwdriver or so, but I want to try to get it with a dental tool. Just kind of get in there and pry it out. Of course, potential for this to fly all over the place. Let's get a small screwdriver and see what we can do. Okay, there it's off. Okay, I'm shooting without a microphone, so audio will be a little messed up, but you see I got it apart. There's the ball bearings, and which came out of these holes, and then you can see all the gunked on grease, so I'm going to have to clean that up and clean this out. I don't know if there's a ball in here or not. The spring is right here on the end of this shaft, so let me clean this up, and then we'll look and see if we can't sort this out. Okay, after getting this apart and cleaned up, I'm looking at the diagram, and this shows the three balls on the outside of this piece there, and then it talks about this inner shaft, and this one is different than the one that I've ever run into, but they're saying there's a single steel ball with a spring, which the spring pushes the steel ball against the end of this shaft here, and then these balls ride inside this groove with the pressure pushing back on it, which gives pressure outward that holds the balls in and holds this cover on, because it expands these balls by pushing this out, and it expands the balls out, and it holds this outer race assembly on, keeps it on. Well, this one is totally different. Here's the outer race assembly, the three steel balls. This one did not have a small steel ball in it, and it's got a spring, but it's not loose in the bottom with the ball on the end. You can see this is spring loaded here, and I can move it. And what it's going to do is it's going to go down inside here, and those balls are going to ride in this little race right here with the spring pushing forward on it. And so I'm going to pack this all with some grease, sewing machine grease, and put it back together and see how that works. Okay, here's how you do this. You push it all the way in till the balls are about to fall out. Of course, the grease holds it in. You pull it back somewhat to where it's in that groove. You can hold the balls this way and pull it back until they start popping in. Okay. You put this outer race on like that. So all the balls are in. Push the race on by holding this down. and this should be ready to roll. Let's grease up the tuning condenser, put grease in it, and then put it all back together and see how it works. Okay, since this plate's back here and it's really hard to get that grease in there, so you're having to go through this front port, which is very, very slim. What I did is I took and put a ring of that on there, and then I took some compressed air and just blew it down into the bearings themselves. Put another coat, blow it again, and finally just work some grease in there. And as you can see, seems to be working. It's really smooth right now. Okay, as I was running this through its paces here, we got down to the very end here, and it would start slipping, and that's probably why the teeth on that gear, that small gear in there, it's kind of boogered up. So what I did is I took it off, and I took a small precision file and cleaned it up. Just cleaned up the gears itself. And then I got to noticing that this wasn't fully meshed, and so what I did is I loosened this and was able to push it over and make sure it's meshed really good here. So I think that's probably was the problem to start with, is this was off a little bit, but now it runs real smooth, and we'll go through all the way, not a problem, and not catching or anything like that. So I think we've got this in pretty good shape. I'm expecting the grommets in the next couple of days, so we can put this back on, and won't be long. Of course, we've got to recap all this and check all the resistors and check those out, and replace all the parts, but then we'll be ready to see if this thing will work. I hope this video has been helpful to you in future repair and maintenance of a tuning condenser from the Philco brand, even though this one was a little bit different than the ones I've seen in the past, and it's different from the documentation that I showed. It still works on pretty much the same principle, and the cleaning of the gunk on it, and getting that cleaned up, and then putting a new fresh coat in there of grease will make it last for years to come. So if you liked it, I'd ask that you just subscribe. I've reached 700 subscribers in the past few days, and I really appreciate, and I appreciate all the comments. So if you'll just hit like, subscribe, make a comment, and I'll do my best to answer you. So from Larry from the hills of Tennessee, thanks for watching.